And I think that this offensive line, just looking back in terms of the overall development, depth, the whole nine, is one of the best that Penn State's been in that position in a while.
In my experience, a lot of the success that I've had in college and in the NFL has been the most dominant offensive lines that I've been a part of. We've all been best friends. Like all the starting five, we were just like, that was our clique.
That room is sacred. Like the offensive line room is sacred, dude.
Like we know we're going to win the game up front. If we do our job, we're going to win the game.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State!
What's up, everybody? If you are a college football fan like me, if you know a college football fan that's in your life, you need to go cop this shirt. New designs dropping all the time. It's the perfect gift with the holiday season coming around. If you don't have this thing, you're missing out. Great material, great fabric. I wear it all the time. Go get yours today.
Back again, doing our off-season highlight. Got my man B-Bell here. You guys are in the pocket with us, and we're chopping O-line up today. We got a great guest coming on, Ryan Bates. He was a puppy, played with us, played with Brandon a little bit longer than me. He played with me for a year, I think. But, great player. He's doing his thing up in Buffalo. Unfortunately, they had an early exit, but it is tough to win in that league. So he's gonna have some really cool insight on offensive line play in general. Might get a little nerdy for you guys, but it's really good stuff. Then he's got a couple funny stories about Penn State, a couple of his favorite memories, and then, ultimately how integral he thinks Steve Troutwine is for the development of our linemen. Got a lot of respect for him, so wanted to highlight that before we dove into it. But B, what's up, man? We got some news. Wanted to cover a little bit of news, cover a little bit of NFL, and then we'll dive into this offensive line play from this past year.
Yeah, man. What's going on, brother? I'm good. Good. Another week down. Almost into February already. This thing is moving. It's moving quick, man. I can't lie.
Dude, we're rolling. You're rolling.
You said it, man. The Bills, it took a tough loss to the Chiefs, but it just brings me to, the Super Bowl is 2 weeks, a week and a half from now. Mm-hmm. It's right around the corner. This thing is rolling fast. Football is almost done, although I think we have spring football this year, which, that should be fun to watch at least. And you mentioned it, man. It's tough to – I'm sure Bates will touch on it, but Mahomes, he's kind of in that don't bet against me type of thing, that Tom Brady was in, even when he's up against the odds. Yeah. I really like Buffalo in that matchup, but, Mahomes and those guys, they came out on top.
Dude, he makes plays when he needs to make plays. And Josh Allen, I feel for the guy. He played his ass off. The back half of the year up into this point, played his tail off, but he just can't get over that hump, man. But it's a very, very tough league to win. People say it, and it's cliche a little bit, but you gotta understand it is. You've been there, you've done that, you've seen it. It is very hard. I don't know in that league.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of we talk about that margin of error. College football, the better teams is quite slim, and the league, man, it's paper thin, any and each down, and you never know what's going to be the deciding factor.
I got buddies who talk all the time, they're they bet and all this stuff, and how the hell does the worst team in the league beat the best team in the league? It happens every year,
right?
Middle of the year, week 12, week 13, something like that. The bet, someone loses that they shouldn't lose, and I'm what you guys got to understand is that it's not like Appalachian State beat Michigan. It's not like that. It's the best team that probably just doesn't have something going their way, or they're not really a cohesive unit or whatever. They're still really freaking good, and they can beat anybody. That's the beauty of that league.
Any given Sunday, baby.
Yeah, I mean it truly is that truly is the case. But and Detroit, dude. I watched that. That's the game I probably tuned into the most, and Baker was playing his ass off. I think he missed his first throw.
Yeah.
Missed his first throw with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. And those Detroit guys didn't flinch, man. Jared Goff, and Campbell. They didn't flinch. That's a dangerous team.
It is. And you felt that momentum shifting a little bit in that game when Tampa was like, okay, they got a chance. And
they scored right before halftime. They were all back. Like that was a big momentum shift, and they were able to overcome that.
Yeah, to Detroit's credit, I mean, we've seen teams, falter in those moments. They let that momentum take over, and they can't rebound from it. But Detroit, they stood the ground, and that once that offense gets rolling, man, it's fun to watch. I like to watch them on TV.
Yeah. So they're getting it done. We got a couple good weeks of football here ahead of us, and then in some other more immediate Big Ten news, we got our guy Billy O coming to Ohio State and running the offense over there. That's pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah. See, to me, it's interesting outside of the Ohio State picture, which kudos for him. I just didn't think he was ever going to step back down to college, to be honest. I thought once he got back up there, he was going to chill up there. But, opportunities come where they come. And he's got some pieces to work with. Ohio State's garnering a lot of transfer portal attention. So he'll definitely have some pieces. He got some quarterbacks to figure out. But, if anyone can do it, he can.
Yeah, that went from like a head scratcher quarterback room to like arguably maybe the best quarterback room in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, he I don't know, man. Like I saw what you were saying there, but I always thought that if he did come down to college, it would be for another head job.
That too.
And I just feel like he's at that point in his career where it's like kids are getting older, wife. Like I always respected Billy. He was phenomenally focused on football when it was football, but he also had that switch, and I think he gets it.
Yeah.
Like there's more to life than ball, which I love. And I think people who are really, really good almost are towing that line and are a little sick in that sense. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
Football controls everything. And that's what it takes to be great. But there's something to be said too about guys who see the balance, understand it is a game. And I think Bill does have that. And I think to your point, I think stepping into Ohio State, he basically is stepping into another NFL locker room. It's just in Columbus, which isn't an NFL city. But I think he'll do well. I think he needs to do well, just coming off the year that he had in New England. If he does ultimately want to get another head job, I think it's going to come down to, putting together something, finally getting in a national championship, or, in the case of a Super Bowl, I saw some stuff, he's the only guy to coach under Nick Saban and Bill Belichick and not win a Super Bowl or a national championship while he was there, which is pretty tough to do.
I know, right? But he came at like wrong points in time under those coaches.
I guess, dude. But some may say there's one common denominator there, but I'm not gonna roll my with that. So, I'm hoping he does well, gets over that hump, half-heartedly.
Yeah.
So.
What are the chances we get him on here Ohio State week?
I'm sure we're gonna have to jump through some hoops and the Ohio State compliance to be able to get that done. But that would be pretty funny. I might have to make a trip over to the visiting team.
Yeah, Columbus is not a bad city. Like you said, it's not an NFL city, but it's not a bad city at all. A lot of people enjoy it the most out of any city in Ohio. I've heard that a lot in my time in Cincinnati. It's like, oh no, Columbus is the place to be. I've traveled there briefly, in and out, and it's a pretty cool city, especially for a college town. It gets moving a little bit. Buckeyes definitely run it down.
They got a lot of pressure this year too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they say pressure makes diamonds, so we'll see if they can get it done.
Ryan Day and the boys.
I talk very highly about Ryan Day. I still do. I got respect for him in a lot of ways.
Guess it depends what's going on with, their rival and Coach Harbaugh, if he stays or leaves. A lot of buzz right now. Him and the Chargers are heating up. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But to your point, the pressure is on because Michigan they beat everyone. they're looking to repeat. I think regardless of who's there, they're looking to repeat. And I'm not sure what their chances are, but if let's say Ohio State was to fall to a Michigan in their down season, that could look scary for everyone on the Buckeye sideline.
Are you paying too much for health insurance? Too busy to read long, complicated policies? Well, guess what? Here at The Pocket, we got a solution for you. Motti Health. Patrick Motti, former Letterman. He's doing a fantastic job in this industry. He leverages years of expertise to build a customized health insurance policy for you and your needs. Individual plans, family plans. Patrick ensures you get the best protection for your health and budget. Motti Health, one broker, endless solutions. Now offering up to $500 cash bonus for every customer referral. So quit overpaying for your health insurance. Visit MottiHealth.com to schedule a free consultation with Patrick himself. There's an argument to be made that Ohio State or Michigan, won without Jim this year for half of their season, which, that's very true and a valid point, and I'll give anybody that. But I think it is hard to overcome that, and especially when you see look at Alabama. Like Nick Saban steps down, it's like this mass exodus, and then you go out and you get a guy who coached in the national championship game and Caleb Ford come in. It's like kids are running away from that. It's like that's probably a pretty good situation to be in. Right. I don't think many things are going to change, but it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out in the next couple of weeks. Could move the needle for a couple things to happen, but.
You think Saban is done? We're talking about family aspect and coaches and living their lives, and Saban's a lot older. I always tell people you got to watch his football life. NFL Films did this great doc, just highlighting the commitment he gave to the game or has given to the game, and he talks about his kids and the things he's missed in their lives, and it's tough for sure. We know the commitment that goes into coaching.
I've mentioned this. We got the chance to interview the athletic director at Alabama when we were up at the national championship game 2 years ago when I was doing some stuff with the Field of 68, and we were the sub-brand, the Field of 12, for covering college football. And he just brought a lot of unique perspective about Saban. Mm-hmm. At his core, he's a football coach.
Right.
The guy said, I got the job. My office overlooked the practice football facility, and he goes, they were running a little kid camp there at Alabama at the time, and he goes, I'm looking out and I see, a bunch of 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, doing football drills and this and that. And he goes, and I look out there and I see the straw hat coaching the hell out of them. And it's like some guys have that, and he's definitely one of them. And he, like you mentioned, gave up a lot, but I think at his core, the game and times are changing to the point where I think he's feeling that aspect of it is becoming less and less prominent at the college level. Yeah. And that's probably a big factor. I don't want to speak for the man, but I think that's probably a big factor as to why his time is now. And I think he's just going to go enjoy that new house he bought down in Florida. He's going to fish his ass off, golf a little bit, and have a good time. And, he's a GOAT, dude. Best ever done.
See, I say I give him a year, and then he'll get a call. It may not be college football, but I don't know. I'm
sure the itch will still be there, but I don't think it'll be any major capacity if he does anything. I don't think it'll be game day-to-day stuff. Be cool as hell if you got in on a high school level down there or something like that.
Yeah, change the game,
So, but we'll see. So with that, let's shift gears here. Like I said, we're doing our season reflection series, breaking it down by position group and the offensive line. Right, we did D-line last week. We're going to do O-line this week. Start in the trenches. Bates and I talked a little bit about it, and you guys will hear that here soon. But to me, this roster and the way that we built it, and we keep beating the same drum here, but deepest it's ever been. Most talented it's ever been, top to bottom. He mentioned Steve Troutwine and the job he's doing, and I think having a consistent figure in that room has been really good for the development of these guys. A lot of these guys have only been under Steve, and Bates talked about it. He came in under Herb Hand, was then with Lime Grover. So that when you have different philosophies, and there's a million ways to skin the cat. People think different things and technique about playing the offensive line position. It's probably one of the more diverse positions from that standpoint in football. there's some negotiables there depending on what you have. And I think just having consistency there has been really good for us. And I mentioned this, like we were kind of a jack of all trades when it came to like identity, right? Like we were zone scheme, we were gap scheme, we ran counter, we ran, our toss and our edge run game. Like we ran so many different techniques and so many different schemes that like it was hard to really zero in on our bread and butter. And I thought overall we were a very efficient team running the football, but we just lacked some of these explosives. And that again could play into some of the stuff with the running back room, whatever. I don't think that was the case, but people complained about them. People talked about it. They were this like pass pro the whole nine. I thought they played really well. I thought they were physical when they needed to be, and I think it's really hard. It's an easy position to over criticize and point the finger at, but it's really hard to understand all that goes into it. And I think outside looking in, big picture, this year, they're starting to turn that corner, and I think they're starting to get back to that consistent level of expectation of greatness and dominance at the line of scrimmage. And, Olu is a perfect example. Kid who's been through the system, was unbelievable, stayed, going to be the first tackle taken. I think we're just going to continue to reload there. And I think we need to. If the foundational shift that we're talking about is going to happen, I think it starts in the trenches. We've said this over and over again. I think this offensive line is on the track that they're on. But that's my overall thoughts on that room and the way that they played. I think we're going to zero in on some stuff with Andy Koltanecki in terms of what he wants to do and just get these guys coached up the right way, get them really confident, and get them tight. Bates talked about it. It almost has nothing to do with football in that room, and I said this too. It's like a sacred room, dude. Like the offensive linemen are weird as shit. They're
always
my favorite guys to hang out with, but they are their own thing. And when they're their own thing and people understand that and let them roll and they're confident in what they're doing and they know that this game is won or lost on our backs, it's a scary thing. And I think when you look at the teams that have that, the Michigans, the Georgias, like you can make the argument for Alabama still, like they're really freaking good, man. And I think we're right there.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. It always starts in the trenches, whether we know it's not the most glamorous position, so the stats don't ring off and people don't want to talk about them, but you just said it. The top programs over the history of college football in general, it starts up front. If you want, we all want the offense to be, new and improved, it's going to start up front. Like you said, replacing Olu. We got the transfer kid coming in. We'll see if he steps into that role. But, there's some young guys, I'm sure, that are hungry for that. And that's what we talk about, the competition part. We're deep. But if we just have guys in spots, that doesn't mean anything. These guys have to compete. And as we said before, with the quarterback room and any room, iron sharpens iron. So what are we going to do to get that best product out there to ultimately get this offense new and improved, revamped, like we said? And it'll be fun to watch. Definitely starts up front. And I'm interested to see what that identity kind of morphs into with Coach Koltanecki. As we said, we struggled to find it this past season, but we saw glimpses of, like, you said it every week, we're a ball control offense. We had the guys up front to kind of, I won't say dominate the line of scrimmage, but, grind it out, I would say.
Like, we stay on schedule.
Stay on schedule.
Like, we weren't as explosive as, like, even the 26 – like, probably Saquon had a lot to do with that. Like, that's nothing against Nick and those guys and Cage. But, like, Saquon was a different bird, dude. Like,
he made a lot of plays for him. So
you gave him the ball 20 times in a game, like, he's going to rip 5 big ones off. Like, anywhere.
Right.
So, I think that had a lot to do with it. But these guys, man, and again, I think it goes back to the common theme of what we talked about, like the whole team, right? What we want to see from this whole team this offseason, it really has nothing to do with physical development, really even scheme.
Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it's just
6 inches between their ears. Like, and I think if this offensive line group gels fast, everybody else will fall asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely the bulk of the puzzle. And you mentioned it. I mean, the quarterbacks, I'll mention both guys. They have to be in those rooms. And like you said, the O-line's their own thing, but you were right there with them, an extension of them. And I think the quarterback, has to be an extension of every group, in some form or fashion. You really will,
Yeah, you gotta intermingle, you gotta mold, you gotta be a chameleon of sorts when it comes to being able to relate to a lot of different guys. And I think that's
because the whole line is a lot different than the receivers.
I definitely talked to Deshaun and hung out and had fun with Deshaun in a lot different manner than I hung out and talked to Angelo Mangiero, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it is. Like, it's just
right.
And if you want to have a guy at the court, and I think that's where Drew can make a lot of strides too, is just like being able to ingratiate himself across the roster, across the different rooms. And if I was him, these boys up front, especially getting like Nolan Ricci in, a guy who comes from a program in Wisconsin that has had a ton of history and success from an offensive line standpoint. Maybe getting some of that perspective and bringing that, and how quickly does he not feel weird about like pressing some of those lines, right? Like, I think that's the other thing too, is like being open to change and being open to different thought processes and how to get things done. Like, not that Penn State hasn't been good. It's just like, how can we take some things maybe from Nolan's experience up there at Wisconsin that could help us be better, right? So I almost think the development of this room really is not X's and O's or like scheme. You know what I mean? We're losing a big piece. Let's get another one in here. Let's get tighter, and let's be the focal point for the entire mindset shift in this program. And that's the type of power an offensive line room has. Yeah.
I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to hear Bates's, opinions and what his experiences playing O-line, because I hate O-linemen. As a linebacker, more than undersized. That's the thorn in my tail. Fighting those guys off, getting off, shedding blocks. But I always enjoyed Bates, and like you said, he was a young pup, came in, but had a few good seasons with him. Loved him. He's a warrior. At the end of the day, it's about who you want to go to war with. Last week, our guy Windsor got into it. He was fired up, but it was true. I mean, who do you want to go to war with? And Bates was definitely one of those guys, so I'm excited to hear from him.
Yeah, we'll get to that right now. So without further ado, Ryan Bates. So as promised at the beginning, we got my guy Ryan Bates. He was a young pup when I was there coming in, and now he has blossomed into a beautiful burly man and killing it up there in the NFL. I super proud of him, dude. He's had a hell of a career. It's tough to win. I'm sure he's hurting a little bit after this past weekend, but it is tough to win in that league. And he's been a part of some really successful teams. So Bates, I know you're coming off it, brother. We'll try and not hit that too hard, but really proud of you, man. Happy for you taking the time.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Dude, so yeah, like I said, you were a pup when we came in. We're highlighting the Penn State offensive line, and Brandon and I throughout this whole year have kind of highlighted like the ups and downs and turmoil and turnover of this program really in the last like 12 years, which is hard to find like a case study in the history of college football of what this program's gone through and how quickly we've rebounded and all this stuff. But, you came in under Herb Hand. You were if I remember correctly, a bit of a project guy. What were you, about 270 coming in, 280?
Oh yeah, I came in probably about 270. They had me about up to 300 in probably about like 4 months, 5 months.
Yep.
Throwing ice cream in my shakes, drinking those Dr. Pete's chocolate milks.
Phenomenal.
It's insane how much calories were in one chocolate milk. But yeah, they threw weight on me quick. I got there my freshman year, summer 2015, and I was a project guy. They didn't know whether to play me at guard or center, and so they had me at center my first year, and then they moved me at guard the second year, and then I wound up playing tackle the last two. So I played.
Exactly. Dude, you were always like a really phenomenal athlete for like how, like in terms of like short area quickness, pick your feet up and down. And like, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I spent a lot of time watching like the younger guys, because I knew like at that point in time, the younger guys were going to be the guys to ultimately, get this going and get it going. So like you, Saquon, Mike, like all these guys. And I mean, I lived with Mike, I lived with Saeed. Yeah. So just watching how you worked. And then you're now with with a very close, dear, almost like big brother of mine, and Noel LaMontagne representing you. So you fit the bill, man. I'm really proud of the career you had at Penn State. And like I said, everything else going on. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. But I want to talk about this as well. I want to get your perspective on just offensive line play in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I'm a quarterback guy, but I'm a football guy. I love football, and I have a lot of opinions or theories on like offensive line development, especially at the college game. Right. And I think you're going to be able to, just because of everything we just highlighted, be able to really paint a really good picture here. So I think the way the college game has kind of developed into this, like, we're just going to slide basic pro when we can, like get the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast, a lot of zone concept run game. You're not really getting a ton of gap scheme unless you go to like Wisconsin or a couple of these really traditional programs. So like, when it comes to playing offensive line, it's almost like just being a really good athlete that can handle the other athletes on the outside, which are getting better and better. And like the technique and fundamentals of being a solid offensive lineman, from a scheme all the way down to, like I said, the technique and like blending that together, is lost a lot in the college game.
Yeah.
And I feel like you start getting it in the NFL game, but it makes the development hard. And then specifically at a place like Penn State, we talked about all the turnover, the coordinators and all that stuff. But I've also mentioned how position specific turnover has been something that, not an issue, but something that we've had to overcome over the past 7-8 years. And you came in under Herb Hand, you played for Lime Grover, and then I think there was another guy in between Lime Grover and Troutwine. I may or may not be right or wrong there, but anyway, 3 or 4 guys since James has been there at that position group. There's something to be said about that too, just a common voice being able to get something into you. So kind of outline everything I just hit there. I know it was a lot, and I have diarrhea in my mouth sometimes, but I think it's a good conversation to have about offensive line play and the development of it throughout your course of your career, whether it's just college or college to the NFL and so on and so forth.
Yeah. When I was in college, we ran, I think my freshman year, your senior year, it was more, who was the OC? John Donovan, right?
Donovan, yeah.
That was more pro style. And then when you left, we went to more of an RPO scheme. A lot of run, a lot of zone options, a lot of reads for the quarterback. And, we had an athlete at quarterback like Trace. Trace is an unbelievable athlete.
Yeah.
When you have legs like him, you can, he's another running back on the field. And so it was cool to have him at the quarterback position, being able to move around the pocket and do what he does with his feet. And we had Herb Hand my freshman year, and he was in terms of O-line play, he was a big vertical set guy when I was playing tackle. It's interesting to see how many coaches have different techniques when it comes to offensive line play. Some people teach the double hand punch. They tell you paint the W, which I think personally is stupid. It's an easy way to get a double hand swipe, and you don't hit anything. Up here in Buffalo, we have Aaron Cromer, who's an unbelievable O-line coach. He teaches a lot of independent hand usage, and to be honest, I would never two-hand punch ever again. The way Cromer teaches O-line up here, it's all independent hand usage. You throw the inside hand, he swats that, you replace it with the right, driving by. He teaches a thing called 60-40, where a lot of O-linemen, they teach you, you have a post foot and a kick foot, and a lot of people teach if the defensive lineman makes an inside move, you want to go flat or up with your post foot. He teaches a thing called 60-40, where if someone makes an inside move, you have 60% of the weight on your backhand and 40% of the weight on your front hand. Instead of staying in front of him, you just kind of wash him by. And so it's kind of opened up a whole new world for me, this is my second year under Cromer, with this technique. And from my experience, it's worked so much. I'm kind of getting away from, I don't remember what the question was. I'm just kind of ranting here.
Yeah, no, but you brought up a great point, right? Like, you're talking about Cromer and technique and different things, like the development of an offensive lineman, like in college, right? Like, you look at a guy like Olu that we have. You mentioned him before we got on here. He's a phenomenal player. Like, how much better do you think Olu's going to get when he starts getting that in-depth coaching that I'm not saying you don't get in college, but I think it's a little bit further and few and far in between
Yeah.
when it comes to the type of in-depth development that the offensive lineman can really make once he gets to the NFL, and that's his only focus.
Yeah. The biggest transition from high school to college was the sheer size. The sheer size of the competition you're going to be going against, how big the D lineman going to be, how big you have to be as an O-lineman. We discussed prior to getting on this call, or right in the beginning of the call, I was 270 pounds when I got to college, and I was 300 pounds within a couple months. So that was the thing going from high school to college. And when you go from college to the NFL, you just refine your technique or get taught different technique of whatever you wind up going. And it's more in college and past pro, there wasn't a whole lot of mental gymnastics. They made it real easy for the O-line. They made it real easy in terms of protection, slide protection. Quarterback could flip the protection if he feels, Nichols cap on the other side of the field. He can flip the pro, or you can just turn into a full slide. That's what college protection was. That's all it was. When you get to the league, we are in for instance, us in Buffalo, we're in like New England system. And so there's a lot of moving parts within our protection. At least there was in the old regimen. Simplified a little bit more, but it's so much more intricate than college. And so when you have that transition from college to the pros, I think that's the biggest step, is that mental step. Understanding what defenses want to do, what defensive front sevens want to do in terms of, hey, third down, you're going to get some sort of twist game. How the defensive linemen, they play their gap. You get a more of an understanding that. And I really didn't I didn't really fully grasp what I'm talking about right now until about my second or third year in the league. When I started to understand, all defenses don't play the same.
Yeah.
Some are button press, some are penetrating defense, some are straight two gap, where I'm going to stand right here, I'm going to grab two guys, and you're going to have to move me. Yeah. And then all the linebackers make the plays. And so it's that next step up mentally is just understanding the way defenses do things, and that's helped me tremendously. And again, Aaron Cromer has done he's a big part of how I view defense and how I play football today, because it's changed my game. You win half the battle before you even start the war. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest transition when you go from college to the NFL. And then, of course, technique's everything. But you're not going to get much bigger going from college to the NFL. High school was all, gain weight, get strong. It's more refining your talents when you get to that next level.
Yeah, tying the concepts to the technique.
Yes.
And then when you start adding like advanced algebra in there, when you're talking double sorts and 3 for 4 and two backside big up, like when you start adding all that stuff in there, it's like, that's when you start seeing steam come out of guys' ears, or guys pick it up like you, and kind of how you're wired. It makes sense that transition's happening, because like
game within the game.
You get lost in it, and that's awesome.
It's very easy to get lost in it.
Yeah,
it's easy to overthink and try to, it's very easy to overcomplicate things.
Yeah. So let's take that now back home, right? You've seen all the transition. I don't expect you to have watched like a ton of Penn State football. You were kind of busy throughout the year, but if you can just comment on what you've seen lightly or whatever. What do you think that transition's been? Like, Yurcich came in, and I watched him throughout the year. He threw a lot of shit in there. They ran zone scheme, they ran gap scheme, they ran everything. There was a lot of moving parts, a lot more than I think your traditional offense, or like what Joe Moorhead did with you guys, in terms of like tying concepts to the defense and like what the actual execution looks like, right? There was a lot more of that mental side. And I think that this offensive line, just looking back in terms of the overall development, depth, the whole nine, is one of the best that Penn State's been in that position in a while. Just depth, overall talent throughout the whole thing. Like, I think it's getting back to where I believe Penn State needs to be. And I think when you look at traditionally, it's very similar to like how Alabama and Georgia and Michigan are now. In terms of development, like, just, we're going to win the line of scrimmage. Let's just take that out of the equation before the ball is even put down on the tee to be kicked off. And then everything else will play out from there. So I think they're back on that track, but when you're watching that and you're watching these other teams that are doing things like that, like I said, like the Michigans of the world and stuff like that, what do you think the biggest difference is from like a program that's at that level of dominance at the line of scrimmage and then potentially programs that are trying to get to that point?
Tough question. I think a lot of it has to do with just the guys you have in the room in terms of the O-lines, the type of guys you have. Are they willing to work as a team? Are they willing to cooperate with each other? And there's a level of trust that goes with it. Not only the college, I mean, that's just football in general. If you're playing Pee Wee or in the NFL, it's a matter of trust. You can trust the guy next to you. In my experience, a lot of the success that I've had in college and in the NFL has been the most dominant offensive lines that I've been a part of. We've all been best friends. Like all the starting five, we were just like, that was our clique. Like that was like, clique's not the right word, but we were like
that
best.
Sacred.
Say
like
again?
That room is sacred. Like the offensive line room is sacred, dude.
Everybody else, like
exactly.
We know we're going to win the game up front. If we do our job, we're going to win the game.
Yeah.
And that's just how that's football.
Yeah.
And I think
I love the answer.
I think it's the kind of guys you have in the room, and I think especially in a college program, it's hard to give such, they're all so young. Being in college, you have 18, 20-year-old guys putting a lot of responsibility on them. If they're able to act in a respectful way and act as a professional, even though we're not pros,
we're getting there.
I think they're getting there. I think if they're able to be treated like a pro and not act like a kid and not be treated like a kid, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense.
I think it just changes the whole chemistry in the room. If the coach winds up talking to the players as a man as opposed to a child, where most college coaches, and from my experience, they wind up kind of babying you almost a little bit, where, again, we're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids and who think we have it all figured out. And I get why, act that way in a certain time. But if you can get the right people in the room to act the right way, that's half the battle.
That's awesome. I hope anyone listening to that's fantastic, because it has nothing to do with football. Like at that point.
Nothing to do with football.
Nothing to do with football. And that's the best part about it. And like I said, that's where I've looked at Penn State as a whole right now from a program standpoint. And we did talk about this. Like, talent is not the issue. It's almost more of the mentality and mindset, right? And it's like getting the right mindset in terms of when you're playing Michigan. It's not like we're going to play this game conservative. Fuck that. We're going to go out, win this game because we're better, and like believe it and like act it the way you call the game, the way you manage the game. That's it. Same thing in that room. Like, I think back, probably my most talented offensive line in college was my freshman year, and it was Ty Howe, John Urschel, Miles Diefenbach, Donovan Smith, and the right tackle was either Gary Gilliam or Brian Gress, who passed away and tragically. But it's like that group was exactly what you said. Like the first time when I got on campus in the summer, like Ty invited me over to the house. It was that whole crew hanging out. That's who I ingratiated myself with. And like I say, like the offensive linemen, it's a sacred room, man. Like they're the best. They're the funnest to hang out with by far. And it has nothing to do with football. And that's the best part about it.
Nothing to do with football.
So that's a good transition point, dude. So now, like I said, we talked a little technique. We dove into it a little bit, got a little nerdy. But let's just talk Penn State high level, bring it home here. Give us some war stories. I want to give you a chance. We talk about this all the time with guys, former Letterman that we've had on here. We use this as like as a platform for you guys to give your state of the program, what you hope to see, reflect on some of your playing days and the overall goal of the program and how you see it and where you think we fit, especially with all this stuff coming in. You got Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA coming into the Big Ten, and the whole landscape of college football is all over the place. So kind of give you the floor here and we can rip. I know I got a couple when you guys were puppies, hosting you guys in the frat houses on your visits and stuff like that were probably pretty fun. And but
I remember my official visit, and I think you took us out, and I think Noah Bay was my host. We went out to the frats. I remember we went to one frat, and they wouldn't let us in. They were being just douchebags. And we were leaving, and there was one dude with like a second story, third story window. And I remember it so vividly because I was just like, wow. He was talking shit to you. And I remember you just picked up a snowball, whipped it at him right in the face from like 30 yards. I was like, that was a cool first. That was my first memory of Penn State. That was my first time I stepped on campus. That was the first thing I remember. That was my official visit. I had a great time at Penn State. I've had so much fun my 3.5 years there.
Yeah.
We had such a good O-line room, just the team in general. We had such a good team, such good people on our team. War stories.
Yeah, well, I mean, you came from, because like that class, like you played at Archbishop Wood, right?
Yeah.
So, and then Coop came, right? You and Coop came. Right?
We went to high school together. We wound up going to college together, which is cool.
Yeah.
That whole class was filled with unbelievable talent with Saquon, Irvin Charles, Kevin Givens, a lot of people playing in the league right now.
In there, that class, like I said, like you guys were puppies when I was there, and it was just that was like my favorite thing was watching you guys and going like he's going to develop. Like Juwan Johnson was in that class. Like you start going down the line, and guys who've played are still playing and playing for a long time. Like it took a little while for some of them.
It did. But shit. I look back to college film now. Like I'll bullshit and put on some, I'll go on Twitter or find some old clips of me in college, and I'll look back to it and I'll think to myself like, what was I doing? Like I look like I'm playing with like one leg out there. It just compared to where you are now, where like I refine my technique and I get better, and it's night and day, and it's just funny to think because I remember being at that time in college, like wow, these guys are so fast, so strong, and then going to the NFL and playing in the NFL, you put a film on college film, it's like, wow, they look like they're moving in slow motion. And I remember when I first noticed that, and it just kind of blew my mind how big of a transition it is. I'm kind of ranting here now. Oh yes, the Big Ten championship game. That was my favorite memory in college, going over there in Indiana and playing at the Colts Stadium for the Big Ten championship. That was unbelievable experience. I got to go against TJ Watt and Vince Beagley, two really good players. I don't know if you've ever heard of TJ Watt. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. Yeah, just kicked my ass the first couple of drives. I did not know what I was in for until those first couple of drives. And then I started to understand what he was doing, gather myself, and, regroup. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
But unbelievable experience. We wound up going to play in the Rose Bowl right after that in Pasadena. So cool to be a part of that. And that whole week, really, it was just so much fun. Cool experience. I actually tore my calf in the Rose Bowl game. That was a fun fact. I tore my calf right before halftime. And I was told it was just a bruise. And then next year, why does my calf look like this? Never healed properly. It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, that year, the whole 2016 year, I really thought that was the year we would go to the playoffs and have an opportunity to go to the championship game. That was the one year where I thought, like, we have it all. We have the world by the balls. We can do whatever we want.
We talked about that with Kabinda. You guys had the mentality for that too. Like you guys, like what we talked about. The biggest difference is, I think, with Penn State right now and where they can make the biggest strides. It was, I feel like, and I gave a ton of credit to Moorhead. Like I love Moore. I love Moore. I just thought the way he presented himself and the way he acted, you guys played like that. And I think that's like a beautiful thing when you have your offensive coordinator who has a certain mentality. Like Ole Miss did it. Like Ole Miss plays how Lane Kiffin acts. He's a troll on Twitter who's confident in exactly what he's doing every step of the way, and almost to a point where he's blind about it. Like I don't really care about anything else. Like I know I'm doing the best thing possible. Like Moorhead had that. So
we took shots like nobody else. We threw the ball down the field and made so many plays. We would score 40 points a game. I think that was our average. I think we averaged 40 points a game. We were the most explosive offense in college football.
Yeah.
With unbelievable receivers, Deshaun Hammer, Mike Gesicki, Jawan Johnson, Saeed Black.
You guys had Chris, too.
Chris Godwin. Got to forget about Chris.
Yeah.
So much talent. So
All
much.
right. So what are you looking forward to with Penn State here now moving forward? You talked about it a little bit before we got on, just the transition into the Big Ten, the offensive line, what you expect out of those guys, kind of bringing that back to this thing. But
yeah, I have a lot of respect for Troutwine, the O-line coach there, and I hope he's there to come for the next couple of years when we especially coming into this next year. We have how many teams now in the Big Ten?
I lose.
So we need O-line more than ever. We talked before we got on the podcast. It was starts up front, it ends up front. That's how you win games. If you can have a run game, it makes winning the game so much easier.
Makes quarterback's job easier.
And so when you have an offensive line coach that has had so much success, even when he was in Boston College, I think he does a great job in developing offensive linemen. And it just goes to show how the O-line performed this year. And have, the left tackle coming out in the draft. I think he's supposed to be the number one left tackle off the board. And I think if he continues that track of, getting O-linemen, developing them, I think there's nobody Penn State can't handle because we have skill guys. You have everybody. You have all the quarterback Drew Aller. He's a great young quarterback. I watched a couple of games this year, and I think he's got so much potential. I think he's a hell of a talent.
We've talked about that. People expect that growth trajectory to be so fast, and
it's not, you can't rush things like that. You can't. It happens when it happens, really. But he's so talented, and I saw so much potential from him this year.
Yeah.
And when you have an offensive line, when you have a quarterback like that, and you put a good old line in front of him, there's not anybody you can't beat.
Yeah.
And I know we have unbelievable running backs there too, with I believe it's Nick Singleton and H1 Allen. Yeah. So I have a lot of hopes for Penn State for this upcoming season and in the future, and I hope Franklin does a good job of beating those teams you have to beat.
Yeah, man. We all hope for that, Batesy. So, all right, brother. I appreciate it. Hell of a season. I know you don't want to hear it, but like I said, it's hard to win in that league. You guys got a pretty good quarterback up there yourself. So stick with it. Enjoy the offseason. Safe travels. And when you're back down here, holler at me sometime. We'll go grab a beer.
I love that.
All right, man.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Coming out of that, Bates, B, you had some work obligations, so I ran that one. Not much to be said, man. He's the epitome of a Penn State offensive lineman. I got a ton of respect for what he's doing, got a ton of respect for his career, got a ton of respect for the way he carries himself and talks about the position. So I hope you guys got everything out of that I did. I really enjoyed that segment. So
yes, sir. And I think that'll wrap it up for another episode of The Pocket.
That will do, B. What are we doing next? Are we gonna go to your side of the ball here?
We're gonna go to my side. We're gonna go to my side. We're gonna go to my realm, my world, the LB world. I think that's where we're gonna take it. Take another step to the second level of the defense. We started in the trenches, as we said. Take it to the second level, and we'll go LBs before we switch back over to offense. Maybe running backs, QBs, tight ends. We'll worry about that later. But
yeah, we got some time to think on that.
We'll go LBs, get one of our ex-LBs in here, talk the game, and see what's hopeful moving forward in the Penn State linebacker room, man. We got some guys leaving. Hopefully go on to make great careers in the NFL, but it's about, opportunity is now here. We always said it. So opportunity is there for a lot of guys, and I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, man, we got some good pieces. So I'm looking forward to this one. I hope this offensive line breakdown turned out good. Like I said, it's a unique bird. It's its own thing. And then, I am excited about this linebacker core this year. Got some good pieces coming back. We got some guys leaving, but we got some good pieces coming back. And, I'm excited to get some outside perspective on it from another former guy. You're obviously fantastic. I'm not taking that.
We'll get somebody a little bit more closer in relevance and playing time.
Yeah, we'll tease that out there. But with that being said, as always, make sure you guys are giving us a follow, listen, like, subscribe, pass on to your friends, tell them what we're doing. We're trying to bring you guys the best Penn State content there is from guys who lived it, played it, breathed it, bled on that field, sweat on that field, the whole nine. So here at State Media, that's our goal, and we're going to continue to push this stuff out. Make sure you give State Media a follow. Make sure you give the mothership Mercury a follow. You guys can check out our merch. I know that this offseason, Christmas time's already over, but hey, dude, spring's coming around. Spring ball, spring game. There's always a good time to go out there and pick out some Nittany Lion gear from our merch store. So do that, or if you're an avid listener of the Pocket, hit some of that Pocket gear up, dude. We're all for that, so we appreciate it. And as always, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Peace.